Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Hey, everyone. This is installment number 2 of this new series that I'm doing called Things I Wish I Would Have Known 30 years ago. And this is a pretty big one today. And it's honestly based on a podcast I recorded in January with Dr. Kelly Turner, podcast 36. And the name of the podcast is Can Positive Emotions Kill Cancer Cells? And I went back to listen to it because I have a good friend right now who is really in the battle of her life. And I thought, how do I bless her with not just a platitude or Christianese or anything like that? And so I listened to this podcast, and the information honestly just blew me away. And I thought, wow, this podcast is pretty good. So anyway, I say that without ego because it's not my information. But my conversation with Dr. Kelly A. Turner, we talked about the power of happiness, joy, peace, and love. And she talked about it from a perspective of killing cancer cells. And she told me that anything that makes you happy is killing cancer cells. And so I asked her, I said, okay, you got to unpack that for me because honestly, isn't that kind of hard to believe? I guess I'm asking you, but I'm also, kind of asking myself that we can kill our own cancer cells. So what she was saying is that we all have this inner pharmacy, and it's called the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. And those glands make happy hormones like oxytocin and relaxin and serotonin. But what happens is cancer in the presence of those types of happy hormones will die. So she talked about this study where researchers took a petri dish. It was full of breast cancer cells, and they dripped oxytocin in, and the cancer cells died. So she has found amazing science, and I will post that in the show notes, where happy hormones, she actually calls it apoptosis. That's not her term. That's just the term for this process. Apoptosis is where a cell dies. It pops, apoptosis. So she said, under a microscope, you can look at cancer cells and they are being surrounded. She said, it's like it's getting this giant hug from oxytocin, and it hugs the cancer cells until the cancer cell actually pops and dies. So she was telling me, what can your listeners do to get 5 minutes of happiness, joy, love, and peace every day? Because 5 minutes of that is better than not having 5 minutes of that. So what can you do? She said when she's looking at her research study where people have been radically healed and they're doing these 10, what she calls healing factors. This is one of them, which is basically creating positive emotions. And, in the world we live in today, positive emotions don't usually just happen. You really need to make an effort to have positive emotions happen. So maybe it's instead of watching the news, you call a girlfriend who is always going to make you laugh, or I actually love Seinfeld and I love The Office. So maybe I watch a little mini marathon of Seinfeld or The Office. Maybe I go out to my garden. But she said in her research, 5 minutes a day can make a massive change in the amount of cancer cells that are growing in your body. And it also can slow down the growth of tumor cells. So what can we do in 5 minutes a day? So I really just encourage you to kind of start thinking about who are the people you're hanging out with? What kind of shows are you watching on TV? What kind of music are you listening to? And I know that during my cancer journey, I did have to stop hanging out with a couple of people, and maybe they weren't in my inner circle anyway, but these were people who just seemed to have more of a negative tract running in their life versus looking at things really in a more positive way. And I knew how important it was for me and my healing journey to just be, again, completely surrounded by people who were encouraging, loving, peaceful, kind. I think we've all had that experience of being around somebody who is maybe a little bit negative, and maybe they're a little bit frazzled and kind of just always running around. And it can be a little bit contagious. So when I think about this and kind of look at this through the lens of things I wish I would have known 30 years ago, I wish I would have known the power of my inner circle to keep me healthy, and also the power of my choices in my life to spend more time in my garden or spend more time just being more peaceful, maybe breathing a little bit better, going on more walks instead of just sitting in front of my laptop for longer than I really needed to. But it's not too late. And I'm doing those things now. One of the other things that I'm doing, which I actually love, is I'm no longer eating in front of my computer. And I got to tell you, that has made a really nice change. I can't say that oh yes, I'm so much healthier now. But at the end of the day, I actually feel more peaceful. And to kind of dovetail on some information from Devin Burke, who I just interviewed, he's a sleep expert. And he was saying, you have to create margin during your day, which means a little bit of downtime during your day. It helps you sleep better in the evening. And so I am creating a little bit more margin during my day. And I just got back from visiting our oldest daughter in Chicago. She's in a big high rise. So it just wasn't possible for me to kind of do my normal routine, which was walk on my grass in the morning, go see the morning sun. But what I could do is I could go out on her balcony, do a little bit of stretching first thing in the morning, look toward the sun, not at the sun, of course, do my breathing. So you know what it is? It really is possible just about any place you are to create more peace in your daily routine. But it does, I've realized, take a little bit of discipline and a little bit of planning. So now I am setting some calendar alerts, which is that, hey, it's 3:00, go outside for 5 minutes, or, even just, kind of doing some breathing, doing some Qigong, doing some yoga stretching really seems to make a big difference. So I just want to kind of wrap up with what Dr. Kelly Turner was telling me about how this timeline or how this pathway can really work when you're creating more positive emotions. So number one, she says, put yourself in a situation where it's joy, peace, love, happiness. Think about what that is. And it doesn't have to be for very long. Again, she's saying 5 minutes, and there is great science to back this up. She said at that point, here's what happens next. Your master gland, so that's that pituitary and that pineal gland. She calls it the inner pharmacist that's in the middle of your brain. That inner pharmacy starts spewing out all of those happy hormones. So again, the oxytocin, serotonin, relaxin, all of those amazing happy hormones that can help to kill cancer cells. And then number 3 in her timeline or her pathway, the happy hormones go to the immune cells, and they say literally, maybe not literally, but the happy hormones direct the immune cells to clean up the junk. That junk could be cancer cells. That junk could be inflammation. That junk could be the beginning of who knows what kind of a disease. So those happy hormones, again, go to those immune cells, and they just start cleaning up the crap that your body has created. So again, it's that apoptosis. If you're watching me on video, you can see what I'm doing. It's just going around my microphone, and it is just literally squeezing it and popping it. If it makes you, gives you better visual, you can think about pimple popper. Okay, that made me laugh. So maybe I just killed some cancer cells. So whatever you can do to, again, create that love, that joy, that peace in your daily life. And when I asked her, what do I say to my friend right now who is truly in such a battle for her life and She said, just let her know that you love her. You're thinking about her and you're praying for her, because that is also going to create that flood of those happy hormones when you just let people know how much you care. So I hope you go back and listen to this amazing podcast with Dr. Kelly Turner. I really learned a lot from it. And again, these are things I wish I would have known 30 years ago, but I know them now. I'm putting these techniques into my life. I've got an amazing inner circle of friends who are full of peace, love, joy, faith. And I know that having people like that in my life, friends and family, and taking time for myself, if I'm tired, I can go rest for 10 minutes. I can go work in my garden. I can maybe even just call a friend and just tell them I love them. Adding more activities like that to my life is going to keep me healthier in the long run. And I really believe it's going to keep me from getting any kind of disease ever again, including cancer. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you're enjoying these things I wish I would have known 30 years ago podcasts. Have a great day. Have you ever cooked with bison? I absolutely love the taste of bison, and basically it's a replacement for ground beef. Not that I have anything against ground beef. One of the things I love about bison is it's got higher levels of B12, it's got higher levels of zinc, iron, selenium. It's really nutrient dense, and it actually has more omega-3 fatty acids than beef. I'm always trying to get more omega-3 fatty acids. I also love that it contains conjugated linoleic acid. Translation, what that means is it's got some anti-inflammatory properties. And you know, I'm all about trying to lower my levels of inflammation. I'm always telling my friends and family to use more bison. You cook it up just like you do ground beef. Now, it does have lower fat levels, so you're going to have to maybe just not cook it as long and really keep a better eye on it if you're making burgers. But in my efforts to try to get more people to eat bison, I reached out to my friends at ButcherBox and I asked them, can you give my community free bison for a year? And I got to tell you, they did think about it for a couple of days, but then they came back and they said, we will do this for you. They're not doing it for anybody else. So go to butcherbox.com/Enos, then use the code Enos. I know that is a lot of the word Enos. And you're going to get free bison for a year and $20 off of your first box. I honestly don't know how long this offer is going to last. So I really encourage you to sign up today. Start using bison. It tastes exactly like beef, but I honestly think it's got a little bit of a stronger flavor. And so I love using it in tacos. I make burgers with it. I crumble it over salads. So again, go to butcherbox.com/Enos. Use the code Enos for $20 off your first box and free bison for a year. It's going to be an awesome summer. Thank you for joining me today on the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I've got my shopping guide for all of my cancer self-care items in the show notes, along with information about today's guest and our show sponsors. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss an episode. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gal that got diagnosed with cancer and wanted answers. If you need medical advice, please be sure to consult with a medical professional. And thank you for listening.